Growing up in our neighborhood, I never really heard my parents complain about the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. And you have to appreciate, my parents weren't exposed to highways until they came here, right? To the United States. So for them, it's like, oh my goodness, I could get from point A to point B in less than 30 minutes. So it was almost like an iconic wonder of the world.
Do you remember coming to the Commodore Theater?
Always. Movies, matinees, $5. Remember? 2 for $5. Always.
That was the best part. It was the double features. It wasn't the best place, but it was the last remaining theater along the Broadway corridor that used to have all of the theaters in Brooklyn.
Williamsburg is my childhood community. My parents both came from the Dominican Republic in the 60s. My mom, a single woman in her 20s, which was unheard of at that time. Later in the 70s, she met my dad in Dominican Republic, brought him over with a green card, and they lived in the 366 South 5th Street building. It was growing up, this building that almost took a life of its own. Everyone knew each other because they were family, but the times on that block during the 70s, especially after the fiscal crisis, the blackout, we're talking about buildings that were torched for insurance purposes. Landlords that were abandoning buildings. You had to fend for yourself as a tenant. You had to, gather what would be talent and skills amongst neighbors to fix plumbing, fix electricity, maintain boilers. It was a fight or flight, and we were the ones fighting while everyone else was fleeing.
There's a sentiment of resentment, right? Where you start thinking, well, if we had never done anything in the neighborhood, would all this housing have been developed? Would the lots be empty? Would the Commodore Theater still be there? Mm-hmm. It's the speculation of the quick dollar in real estate that's pushing families out of this neighborhood.
Why wasn't this investment there when you and I were living here, right? And done in a sense that we could do what our parents did, right?
That's
like,
right.
Which was raise our family here.
Buildings here in the 70s were being given away by property owners for $13,000 to whomever would take it. And today you're looking at brownstones that are costing $5 million.
You can just see Marcy Avenue train stop. Look at all of that rust, all of that disinvestment. Why is it like this, Why hasn't it been fixed?
How much more expensive does a neighborhood have to be to get the attention to be able to rehab what is this trestle?
And this is the engine right here, the economic engine. This right here gets the workforce all the way from Jamaica to City Hall, to the city for everything there. This is a huge hub, and look at the way it's treated.
Going north, you see the BQE trench, the elevated train crossing through our community, the entrance and exit of the Williamsburg Bridge. The thoroughfare is everywhere. The bus depot for Brooklyn is at the foot of the Williamsburg Bridge. And so you have all these different uses of infrastructure that services probably all of Brooklyn, beyond Brooklyn, but hurts our community.
"25 by 100 feet. You couldn't even create what would be a garden here with the toxicity levels that are on this soil.
You know, these trees are dying. These trees are dying. We need more green space here. It's clear. It's clear.
Basically, particulate matter 2.5 means that the human body inhales that pollutant and it goes right through your lungs, and it really causes, long-term health challenges for people who are asthmatic, for children, for the elderly. This space right here has the worst air quality of all open spaces in the Southside. Why? Because as you can see, we are right by the BQE, right by the bridge, right by the bus depot, and all the traffic that goes around this playground really impacts the air quality. Whereas most neighborhoods in New York City have improved, the Southside hasn't. Why? Because our infrastructure hasn't changed.
Esteban, do you remember being in this park?
Definitely. Many after school shoot-arounds and playing games and the tournaments. Even though it was an open space and at least it was all of this pollution. And during summer, the heat was
scorching.
It was hot and it was soot. It was just, you would see the exhaust coming from those trucks. And especially during the summer and the hot days, you would come, you would shoot around, but in a few minutes, your hands were black.
A lot of the tenants from this building shared with us stories of the inability to want to open their windows because their window ledges are just filled with that soot that you referred to. The asthma rates. I remember Woodhull Hospital and the campaigns to reduce the hospitalization rate in our community because of asthma. We had substandard conditions in all these buildings. They have been rehabbed since the 80s. But one infrastructure that still remains is our BQE. And the time is now to be able to do something about this gaping hole.
Definitely.
It's a proposal that stems from the lack of open space identified in 2005 for the Greenpoint Williamsburg rezoning. The study was conducted as part of a grant that I was able to secure for our community to comprehensively look at the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. I considered it a brownfield, underutilized land, right? Even though there was no land, it was a trench, but you can turn it into a social benefit.
Already the South Side has less parks than the city in general. We have 0.3 acres per every 1,000 people who live in this community, where the suggested amount is 2.5 acres.
The feasibility study was able to prove that if we took the street bridges that connect the two sides of the South Side, those bridges are past their lifespan, beyond 50 years. We wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to say, don't just replace them, but expand them so that now you have a platform.
All the way up to Broadway and down to South 3rd Street. This is what would make a park of 3.5 acres of land of real recreational space.
And this platform would have multi-purpose use because the deck would be covered with a synthetic turf that would allow for recreational activity. Barbecuing, volleyball, baseball.
Acres of space to be able to have those baseball games. Los Sudes would just be able to come down the block and be able to have that.
The commission study proved the feasibility of this. And our community was ecstatic, but skeptical. In order to get community input, we visited them at the park. We visited them at the schools. We visited them at church. It was a comprehensive outreach. We didn't want to miss anyone. At the time, you only had one project to compare to as far as what had been achieved in the United States, and that was in Dallas. Today, you have a dozen different projects that you could compare. I am more optimistic today than I perhaps may have been 4 years ago because of the triple cantilever. The span of 3.5 acres is nothing compared to the triple cantilever. There is this two-tail reality of a community like the Brooklyn Heights community, to their credit, wealth, political access, technical backgrounds, the know-how of addressing what would be individuals in government that are their next door neighbors. We don't have that privilege. We definitely have allies in the downtown Brooklyn area. And there's challenges behind that because we have to mobilize with them. How does that look? Are we taking a backseat? Is this the white knight coming to make things happen on our behalf? I 1,000% believe this will be built. I will not give up. I want the community to see what they are capable of. This is about people power. The fact that people can address the injustices of the past. That government cannot just designate what is a label of environmental justice and not do anything to support that. We have to continue to press those in power to change their hearts.